Ah, So, welcome to a New Year's edition to Gentle Somatic Yoga. And if you're live with me, New Year's is the traditional time to set intentions. And in yoga, we talk about intentions rather than resolutions. And there's just a fine distinction. The distinction between an intention and a resolution is um, an intention comes from the heart. And so, in order to discover what the intention is, it might be nice to start with some sort of heart math breathing practice. So, if you like to place your hands on your heart, you could. You don't have to. We are going to direct our breath to the chest area. And this is heart math inspired. It's not word for word a heart math practice. So you can either have your eyes open or closed, and you slow your breathing down to what is a comfortable but slightly slower pace for yourself. Just notice your breath entering and exiting more toward the top of your body, your chest area, rather than a typical yoga breathing practice, which often goes down deep into the diaphragm to the belly area. Keep it slow and steady. You could even visualize some gentle waves that every time you inhale, it's the top of the wave, and then you exhale, you're going to the bottom of the wave. Very rhythmic, very steady. Not holding at the beginning or the end of the breath. So once your breath feels steady and calm and your heart feels warmed up by this, the next part could be actually activating some sort of uplifting thought or feeling. Anything that your heart feels warm and supported. And so there are lots of research on how when we shift our thoughts and feelings to something that's on one side of the scale, like appreciation, gratitude, love, kindness, it actually changes the rhythms of your heart and also your thought patterns, your brain waves. You're starting to get messages from the heart being sent up to your higher thinking brain. To make this something easy, so the next question as part of this practice would be to ask your heart, what do I really want in 2025? So now that our heart is warmed up and we're sending very calm messages to the brain, you might get some wisdom here. What do I really want in 2025? And if something comes quickly to you, you might run and get a notebook and jot it down so you don't forget. Or if it doesn't come quickly, it might come later today or after a good night's sleep or in the shower. Or you might have to do this another time or two till you get the answers. You might even have to reword the question. So anyway, when I did mine this morning, I got this sense that the last few weeks I've been worrying a lot about a lot of things and how depleting worry is. And I just, my intention is to catch myself as quickly as I can when I get into a worry state and shift, because worry does not make the thing happen or not happen, and it does wear your energy down. So hopefully you guys have been able to use a practice like this to help you. So let's go ahead and start moving our bodies, lifting arms up on an inhale. You could do a slight back bend if your back is warmed up enough, and then draw your arms down. I'm keeping my elbows bent. You decide what's appropriate. Just go ahead and start to coordinate some movement. I am getting warm now. I might need to take off my sweater. A few more times, up and down, inhaling and exhaling. And then we can start to add on here. So next time up, just interlace the fingers. If you want to, you could turn your hands inside out to face the ceiling. Drop the hands down to the shoulder, to the head, and then lift up a little bit. Drop them down, lift them up. Last time, drop down, lift up, and then let's just gently go side to side. Again, this should be small enough so that you're not feeling uncomfortable sensations. We're just trying to get blood flowing. So next time you go off to one side, you might want to drop a hand down and come back, and drop a hand down and come back. My shirt is short. Keep going. Drop a hand down and back. Place that hand on the head. So the next time, when you drop the hand down, twist to that side and come back. And then when you drop the hand down, twist to the other side and back. Use your breath. Last time like this. And back. Now drop both arms down. Lift shoulders up to ears. Draw shoulders back and release. Lift shoulders up to ears. Draw shoulders back. Release. So this is the inhale. And then the exhale, so release. Inhale. Exhale, release. And inhale. Exhale, release. Now, if you can, take your hands on the small of your back, palms facing in, and flap your shoulders like they're wings. Flap them forward, flap them back, flap them forward and back, flap them forward and back. And when you're doing this, you could be getting a little rounding here, a little arch there. And let's add some head movement into it. So when the shoulders are flapping forward, lift the chin up. When the shoulders are flapping back, tuck the chin in. Use your breath. And shake it out. Move your wrists around, move the fingers around. Just do some sort of organic movement that feels good for you, whatever feels right. And then interlace the fingers. Notice which finger is in front. And if you can, draw elbows toward each other. Now press the elbows away with a little bit of effort. Palms are still close together. And then just let the palms separate from each other. Turn the hand inside out, again lifting up. Some of you at this point might be able to go fully up. For me, I still like to do this and then circle. And then noticing which finger was on top, do the other finger. Draw elbows toward each other, wrists together, press elbows apart, press wrist apart, turn hands inside out, keep elbows bent. If you have any shoulder difficulties, lift up. If you don't, you could go all the way up and circle around. And now let's just move the shoulders nicely. So let's move down our body a little bit, placing your hands somewhere on the side body if that's comfortable. If it's not, you could kind of imagine that you have a beach ball. You could do it like this too. We're not tipping over, we're going side to side. You can do it either with the hands on the rib cage or with the arms out to side. You're trying to get lateral, not tilting, but just shifting movement from either side. And then, try to move your rib cage all four directions. It may not move a lot. So we've done kind of back and forth movement, and then we've done side to side. I'm switching directions. Again, this may not be a big movement at all, but I want you to focus, if you could, on the rib cage and not the hips. We're going to move down to there next. Okay, so now take one hand with your palm down to the front, one hand with the palm out to the back. And now we're trying to actually move this part of our body. So again, may not be a big movement. It's kind of hard to think to separate this part of the body from the rest of the body. And your hips are probably going to go a little bit. Go ahead and switch directions and switch hands. See if you're focusing on that center part of the body. All right, so now we'll actually focus on the hips. Forward and back a few times. The fingers are helpful just as kind of guides. So I'm tilting the hips forward. I'm tilting the hips back. This can be as small or as large as feels right for you. Now let's do hip hikes. So tilt one hip up. This side is all shortened. This side is lengthened. I've actually come onto the ball of my foot. Come down. Tilt the other hip up. Come down. Tilt it up and down. Tilt it up and down. And now let's put that all together. Forward, side, back, side. Smooth it out if you can. Notice if there's any clicking or popping. If there is, rather than force through it, see if you can make the movement smaller till you get to a point where it's not clicking and popping. Go ahead and let's start the other direction slowly at first. Smooth it out. Make it as small or large as feels appropriate for you. And now your knees. Now, if the knees are too crunchy, again, make these movements either smaller or don't even do them at all. So I'm doing little circles with the knees, and then I'm circling the other way. And now doing the ankles. If you don't feel like you're ready to balance, you could place a hand on the wall or on a chair. Otherwise, you can do this as a balance, maybe circling one direction. And my ankles always are making noise, so I'd have to make really small movements for no noise. And then maybe up and down, flex and pointing a few times. And then sickling. Sickling is kind of turning the ankle so that it's kind of in and out a few times. Okay, shake that out. You might need to walk around between or do something to ease up the leg that was doing all the support, and then working the other side. First encircling, and then maybe flexing and pointing, and then sickling. So the sickling is kind of a little bit like that, like the foot, the inside going up, the outside going up, kind of thing. All right, shaking that out. And we'll do a wide-legged forward fold. If you're not doing forward folds to the ground, have your hands either on a chair, on a wall, and even if you're going to the ground, you might want to use some blocks to elevate the floor. So widening your stance. And if you have low back issues, you want to keep your back relatively lengthened. If low back problems are not an issue for you, you could round a little bit. And whichever one you're doing, go ahead and bend both knees and straighten a few times. Use your breath. You could even open up your mouth and sigh. You could shake the hips a little bit, side to side, swaying. And then coming up safely, bending knees more to lengthen spine, get head above the heart, and making your way all the way to standing. And just briefly walk around your room, having opposite arm and leg go, and see how you're walking, see how the movement is in your body at this moment. And then you might even briefly come to a wall and just do a wall sit, just to see how your back is leaning against the wall, if it's comfortable, if you feel both shoulders touching evenly, both hips touching evenly, if the back of the head is comfortable against the wall. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and we'll make our way down to the ground. The rest of our effort will be either seated, prone, or supine. So you might want to cover your mat with a blanket if it's not already covered, and have all your other supplies nearby. Well, I think I'll even grab a strap just in case. So we'll start in seated next and do a couple seated things, including our twisting series, which is always nice to do in some sort of seated position. And these seated things can be done in a chair before you get completely on, the ground if you want to. Yeah, they can be done effectively with legs down from a chair, legs crossed, or legs like this. So you decide how you're feeling today. The one thing about if you're able to get in this position, this does allow you to continue to work on your hip as you are doing your twisting series, whereas either this one or legs down kind of keeps the hips relatively still. So you decide, again, what's appropriate. So if you are sitting like this, and you can still attempt to move the hip around, the back hip around, we're going to be twisting toward that direction, which is my right, your left. And I'm just shifting this hip around a little bit. After sitting in a car for 12 hours straight, we did take short breaks, but There's nothing like getting a very stiff hip. And then first twist you'll do with your eyes open, and then 3 twists with eyes closed, and then the last twist with eyes open again as a comparison to see if you gain some range of motion. So twisting off, looking behind you, picking out an imaginary spot on your wall or wherever you're able to see, or even the floor, and then coming back. When you come back, go ahead and release all muscular effort. And then if you could, do the next 3 of these twists with the eyes closed, focusing on internal sensations. Noticing what you're working, noticing what's engaging and where you're disengaging muscles, and if you're still holding tension anywhere. Now, after the 3rd one, with the eyes closed, go ahead and open the eyes to look and see if just that little sequence helped you gain some range of motion. It's amazing, just a little bit. That's why we have to do it every day in some fashion, some form, because every night you re-stiffen up. Things just start getting sticky. And so what we have to do is re-lubricate everything to get it to move again. So if you're sitting like this, or regardless of the way you sat for that side twist, if you could stretch your leg out and this one stays bent. If you need to elevate, go ahead and elevate. Go ahead and fold over and just see how far you are from the ground right now. I'm about 2.5 feet, I think. And then we're going to work on trying to gain range of motion in a forward fold. So face the side leg that's stretched out. Reach your arms up on an inhale and just float it down on an exhale. It may not go very far. This could be a tiny movement for you. Try to maintain a flow. Try not to go in and out of any pain. So in other words, if your movement has to be like this to reduce pain, do it like that. You are still making the necessary changes in your nervous system communication to an area of the body that will, over time, allow you to increase your range of motion. This is not a quick fix. All right, let's pause for a minute, and now we'll reverse the direction. Anytime you can close your eyes and soft gaze, you are more focused internally, less external. Use your breath. So all we've done is now reversed the direction that we're going. Okay, now we'll do the sliding action. So bend that straight leg up. Place your head somewhere close to the knee. Imagine you've got a string attaching it, and start to slide the foot away. At a certain point, it's going to pull too much. At that point, you imagine you're cutting that string and releasing everything. And taking a nice exhale. And go ahead and repeating that. The theory is you should be able to go slightly further each time without discomfort. But if you push too much through this, your body will actually tighten up. Cut that string, release completely. 3rd time, slide the foot away, maintain the head at a same distance from the knee until you can no longer do it with comfort, then cut the string and release. Now face the middle again like you were at the beginning and do your post check and see if you're able to lean forward with a little more comfort. I can almost get my head down. Okay. In between the sides, place hands behind back, fingers are pointed away. Open up your chest. You might gently slide your legs side to side. And then setting up for the whole sequence to the other side. Now, if you're doing your twisting without your leg back or just a cross leg or some other position, you'll do that first, but then you'll get into the same position we were for the other sequence. Shifting your hip around in many different directions, lifting and lowering, forward and back, circling one direction, circling the other direction, creating a figure eight, maybe. You might not have a lot of movement, but any little movement is beneficial because these are areas that we don't normally move in our everyday actions in life. And when we don't, it's like they forget how to move. They develop amnesia. So let's go ahead. First twist, eyes are going to be open. The next three eyes could be closed. And then the last one, reopening the eyes to do a post check. Okay, picking the spot, releasing to the front and softening. Next three, noticing internally, where are you feeling this? What's actually working? What are you releasing? Don't move through pain. Make the movement smaller so that you stay pain-free as you're moving, which is so important for the nervous system to feel safe. Some people wonder, oh, well, how can I increase my range of motion if I don't push it a little bit? Well, that's not how the nervous system works. The nervous system, once it finds a safe pattern, will then start to send different signals to the body. On the fifth time, you can look behind you. And when it starts sending a different signal, a signal of safety, then your muscles are not going to tense up so much. And if your muscles are not tensing up so much, you can then start to increase your range of motion. So go ahead and do some sort of forward fold and still stiff, not about maybe 2 feet this time away from the ground. Lifting up as you face your lengthened leg, softening down, not going into pain, keeping the range small enough, flowing with the breath. After the third or fourth time, pausing, checking in, and reversing. Noticing what's different about this side versus the first side that you did. Now, pausing again, bending up the straight leg, placing the head somewhere near the knee, creating an energetic connection. Just start to slide away, trying to maintain that connection until it's starting to feel a little discomfort, then cut the string and release both upper and lower body. Do it again. Maybe you're going a little further without discomfort. Softening each time, pausing in the in-between, not doing too many of these. Maybe 3, possibly 4. And then returning to the initial movement, which is a forward fold, to see if you are able to fold forward with a little more comfort. So once again, stretching legs out in front of you, placing hands behind back, fingers pointed away, opening the chest, gently rocking side to side. Okay. And let's go ahead and work our way toward our belly, but if you can, start on hands and knees and just shift your weight back and forth a few times. Slowly forward and back. You can make this an undulating movement, or you can just keep the spine still. Just feel into this. Make it as slow or fast as feels right for your body today. And then as you're ready, slowly make your way down to your belly. Take your time. Now your arm position can be one arm folded on top of the other initially, or you can have your hand sticking out in front. Start with your head resting on either the ground or your arms, lengthening your feet initially, and then tucking one set of toes in and engaging the muscles of that leg and lengthening that leg, and then releasing it and coming back to the top of the foot, and then doing that with the other side. Tucking toes in first, lifting knee off the ground, lengthening that leg as if you are lengthening that one side body, releasing and down. So the next time you do this one-sided, go ahead and lift up slightly into a back bend, and then release the knee, release the foot, come down, tuck the toes in of the other side, engage that leg, lengthening it, lifting up into a slight back bend, releasing everything, letting it go. This time tucking both sets of toes in, engaging the backs and the fronts of the legs so the knees come slightly off the ground, lifting up into some sort of cobra. If you have low back issues, make it smaller so it doesn't crunch the low back. Releasing the legs first and then the upper body. Go ahead and do that again. Tucking toes in, engaging legs, knees come off the ground slightly. Lifting up into some sort of back bend, protecting your low back by engaging the core, softening the legs first, releasing the body down, drawing a knee off to the side, and then lifting up into a little back bend, and releasing and resting for a couple of breaths. Lengthening that leg down, drawing other knee off to side, lifting up into some sort of back bend. Again, don't go into pain. Come down, taking some breaths here, resting. And then placing hands by the chest, dropping the head completely down. Now, when you lift up this head, tuck the chin to the chest, gently rotate the head to one side, and come on down onto one cheek. Lifting up, drawing chin towards your collarbone, very slowly rotating to the other side, landing on that cheek. We'll do one more round of this, lifting up a little bit, tucking chin to chest, chin traces collarbone, landing on cheek. Last time, chin to chest, trace the collarbone, land on that cheek. Now, very slowly, we're going to make our way to our side. We'll do one thing on this side, maybe more than one, but you might want something under the head to support your neck. You decide how much you want, whether it's a pillow or whether it's enough to have your arm. If you can stretch your arm up, and even if you have a blanket, you're laying your head also on that arm. So my arm is stretched up. My hand is leaning on a pillow up here. You don't need to. You could just lay it on the ground with the palm down. And then lengthen your legs out just for a second, as if you're balancing completely on your side. Now, this is the place or the time where, if your strap is nearby, I'm going to have to get my strap. I thought I had it super close. Now I'm not seeing it, of course. It's just out of my reach. So if you have a strap nearby and you want to use a strap to do this, you could make a loop, or you could just grab either end of the strap. I'm going to try to do mine with a loop. I'm going to try to loop this over my foot. But you could just grab both ends if your strap allows you to do that. Let's see. So I'm going to make the loop big enough to go around my foot, and then if my arm is long enough to put my hand through it. We'll see if that works. So I've got a loop, and then, so this is the idea, that your hand gets to go through the strap, your arm straighten. I'm trying to be completely on my side and balancing. Now, if you start to get any sort of cramp like this, you might bend and straighten a few times. And again, you don't have to do this with a strap. You could just raise your leg up in some fashion just to get this lovely, it's kind of balancing on your side and a side stretch. All right, we're going to remove that. You can all just turn yourself over if you want to try on the other side, or if you don't have room on whatever surface you're working on, completely turn around. So laying on the side, you're trying to get the arm straight up with the palm down. So I still need something under my head. And I'm trying to imagine that I'm standing and, my feet are kind of stacked as if I was standing, and I'm balancing. I'm balancing on my side of my body. And if you have scoliosis or any sort of other issues, you might be adding cushions under certain parts of your body. And then I'm lengthening my arm and lengthening my leg in some fashion. If you have a tendency to cramp like this, go ahead and bend and straighten, bend and straighten. And use your breath. Okay. Whew. Go ahead and release that. And you want to lay on your back. And we'll do a little bit of work on our back, but let's check in. Let's do a soma scan and see how we're doing, how our body's feeling. If you need to bend your knees, go ahead. If you can, straighten your legs out with some comfort. And just notice how your back is touching the ground. Notice if you're sensing liveliness or tingling or some sort of electricity throughout your body. I used to be afraid when I noticed those things, but I've come to realize that that just indicates I've awoken these parts of my body that were probably slumbering and kind of more like blobs, but now have energy flowing through them. Okay. So bend your knees up if they're not already bent, and have your feet slightly wider than hip distance. Your arms can be comfortably by your side if you can, palms down. If not, palms up, you decide. We'll work one leg at a time, just opening, and it doesn't have to open a lot. It could be a little, and coming back to stillness. Do that 2 more times. So when you're opening, you're landing a little bit on the outer edge of the foot and coming back to stillness. And then opening and coming back to stillness. Go ahead and do the other leg. Opening and back to stillness. Opening and back to stillness. And last time like this, opening and back to stillness. Now draw your feet slightly closer in and open both knees. Again, don't go into discomfort. Keep the range small enough. Draw up to stillness. Opening. Notice what you're working. Notice if they're even. And back to stillness. So again, you're landing on the outer edges of both feet. And back to stillness. Now stretching the left leg out, keeping the right knee bent. Just allow the right knee to come over your midline so you're on the inside of the foot, and draw the knee back up. So I've now widened my arms into a T, allowing a little more rolling of the whole side body, and back up. So the next time you roll your knee over, have the opposite hand turned down, have the hand of the same side kind of turning away, opening that shoulder a little more. Your head can look away from the knee, and back to stillness in the center. So turning the palm of the right hand so that the pinky is actually, so you're kind of turning it all the way, pinky to sky. You're keeping the left hand face down and then returning to neutral and returning to neutral. I'm going to show you the arm position from sitting up in case this is confusing. So if my knee is crossing over toward that side, that hand will be down, face down to the ground. The other hand is kind of facing up, so the pinky is facing the sky. And then I'm looking toward the pinky and then back to neutral. So when we do the other side, it'll be like that, neutral. Okay. All right, so now stretch out your right leg. Leave your left leg bent with foot on the ground. You can start initially palms down. When the left knee crosses the midline, you'll keep that right hand palm down, but you'll allow the left hand for the pinky to go up to the sky. So you're kind of turning it inside out, looking over the left shoulder. Come back to stillness. And you could turn the other hand even slightly down, thumb down even more. And back to stillness. Again, stay within your range of motion. And back to stillness. Now, if you have something under your head, remove that so that your palms can be under the head and your fingers interlaced. Your knees are now bent. We'll just tilt one elbow slightly up toward the top of the mat, the other one down, and then slide to neutral. And then we'll tilt the other elbow up toward the top of the mat. One down, back to neutral. So really, these are side bends on the ground. Come back to neutral. Cross the right knee over the left. Allow the right knee to gently pull the left toward the right a little bit. Let the left elbow slightly draw toward the top of the mat. The right elbow is down toward the knees. Come back to the center. Now let the legs go to the right again, but this time let the right elbow go toward the top of the mat, the left toward the ground, toward the bottom of your mat, and back to center. So try doing this one more time each way. So you're drawing your legs slightly to the right. The left elbow's reaching slightly up on the mat, the right elbow down. Back to center. One more time, but the opposite arm position. The legs are still going to the right a little bit. This time your right elbow is pointed to the top of the mat, left elbow toward the bottom. Release the legs, release the arms. Just allow your legs to shimmy side to side. Maybe allow the head to gently shimmy side to side. Taking a cleansing breath, stretching out again. Let's check in, see how we're feeling. We have to do the other side. Drawing knees up, feet back on the ground. This time the left leg crosses over the right. You're just allowing the left leg to pull the leg slightly to the left. Interlace the hands behind the head again. You can tilt the left elbow slightly up toward the top of the mat, right elbow down. Let's come back to the center and neutral. The legs go the same direction, but now the opposite elbow goes slightly up. Back to the center. Let's repeat this sequence one more time. Let the legs gently go toward the left. Left elbow toward top of mat. Right elbow toward bottom. Back to center. Legs go to the left again, but this time right elbow goes up. Left elbow down. Back to center. Release legs, release arms, stretch out momentarily, check in. You should have a whole lot more vibrancy in your body. Bend the knees up. We'll just do some rocking chairs or whatever you like to call it. So when you're rocking your hips away, draw the backs of your elbows a little more deeply into the ground, backs of your arms. Let your chin come up to the sky. Go through neutral, soften everything. Now draw the hips slightly toward the ribs. Tuck the chin in. You don't even have to lift the head off the ground if you don't want to, but you can. Elbows toward each other. Flatten back out. Release. Rock hips away. Chin to sky, backs of arms deeply into the ground. Soften to the middle. Rock hips toward. Chin to sky. No, chin to chest. Elbows toward each other. And release. All right, you might just want to do legs in the air for a moment, and then we're going to come into some sort of seated meditation. We'll do just a seated thing to do our final guided meditation. And then if you want to, you can just lay down in a shavasana. We won't do a mudra practice today because we needed a lot of movement. We had not done movement in a while, I'm sure. Oh, whew. I don't know about you, but my body feels so much more alive and awake. So whatever comfortable way you like to be in a guided meditation, I'm going to read Mark Nepo's December 31st reading. I'll check in first. Take a couple of sighs or breath. Just notice how you're feeling. If you've had any epiphanies about your intention for the new year, get them on a piece of paper before you forget. And this reading is called I See You. I am here. For centuries, African Bushmen have greeted each other in this way. When the one becomes aware of his brother or sister coming out of the brush, he exclaims, I see you. And then the one approaching rejoices, I am here. This timeless bearing witness is both simple and profound. And it is telling that much of our modern therapeutic journey is suffered to this end, to have who we are and where we've been be seen. For with this simple and direct affirmation, it is possible to claim our own presence, to say, I am here. Those people in our lives who have validated our personhood by seeing us and exclaiming so are the foundations of our self-worth. Think of who they are. For me, the first to rejoice at my scrambling into the open was my grandmother. If not for her unequivocal love, I might never have had the courage to express myself at all. And after all, isn't art in all of its form the beautiful trail of our all too human attempts to say again and again, I am here? It's important to note that being seen enables us to claim our lives, and then it becomes possible to pass the gift on to others. But just as important as bearing witness is the joy with which these Bushmen proclaim what they see. It's the joy of first seeing and first knowing. This is a gift of love. In a culture that erases its humanity, that keeps the act of innocence and beginning invisible, we are sorely in need of being seen with joy, so we can proclaim with equal astonishment and innocence that of all the amazing things that could have been or not, we are here. As far back as we can remember, people of the oldest tribes, unencumbered by civilization, have been rejoicing in being on earth together. Not only can we do this for each other, it is essential. For as stars need open space to be seen, as waves need shore to crest, as dew needs grass to soak into, our vitality depends on how we exclaim and rejoice, I see you, I am here. So at some point today, maybe as it's striking midnight, sit with a trusted loved one and with your eyes closed, meditate on their essence as you know them. When filled with their presence, open your eyes and declare with joy and sincerity, I see you. Allow your loved one the space to proclaim in return, I am here. Switch roles and repeat this process of first seeing and first knowing. And if moved to do so, maybe live 2025 in this way. So make your way if you want to lay down, laying down. Otherwise, you can stay seated and just breathe and check in again. Just notice how you're feeling. Maybe repeat, I see you, I am here. This signals the end of our time together today. Gather any parts of the practice that were helpful to you, either physically, spiritually, or both. Sophie came in to say Happy New Year and do her downward dog. Take your time if you're laying down to come to seated. Gather whatever spoke to you. Let's acknowledge each other and say, I see you. I am here. Namaste.